Are we recording? Let me just check. All right, I think we're ready to begin. Good morning or good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Masterclass 4 with the topic English Language Proficiency Testing. This event is presented by BADA Education Philippines in partnership with Pearson Asia. Before we start, just a few housekeeping reminders. This session is being recorded. All participants are muted and to remain muted to avoid background noise. Everyone is on mute, so I hope you can understand. But later on, we will be needing you to unmute at some point during the presentation. We also invite you to please type in your comments and questions in the chat box below. So if you do have any questions for the speaker, please type it there. I'll make sure the speaker will address it during the Q&A session. This masterclass will run for about 45 to 60 minutes. May I now introduce our presenters, starting with Marian Campos, the account manager of PT Academic Review by CCN. And most importantly, let's welcome our guest speaker from Pearson Asia, Mr. Mark Flores. Mark is the Country Business Development Manager for the Philippines. He will focus on what we need to know about high-stakes English tests and why it should not be as terrifying as what many people think. So at this point, I will hand over the floor to Mark. Mark, it's all yours.
Yes, thank you, Monette. Good morning, good afternoon to everyone. I'm having a few connection issues, so from time to time, I'm going to turn off my camera. I hope that's okay with everyone. Right, so I'm going to share my screen now. All right, can I just confirm if you're all seeing my first slide?
Yes, we can see it, Mark.
All right, thank you very much. So today we're going to talk about, for the next 30 minutes, English language proficiency testing. Why are we doing it? And how is it being done? How is it being assessed? Okay. So today we will be discussing three main topics. Number one is why test for English proficiency. Number two is how exactly do we assess English proficiency, and number three will give you a few tips on how you can prepare for an English proficiency test like PT Academic, for example. Okay.
Sir Mark,
So moving right on. Yes.
Sorry, could you please turn on your video? So everyone can see you?
Sorry, Monette, you're breaking up. Could you say that again?
Could you please turn on your video so everyone can see you?
All right, okay.
Thank you.
Hang on. There you go. Can you see me?
Yes, lovely. Thank you.
Right. Okay. Thank you. Right. So why do we test English proficiency? There are three main reasons that I can cite. First of all, if you're planning to study in an English-speaking country like Australia, obviously you need to be comfortable enough with the English language in order for you to function. Particularly when you're taking, let's say, university bachelor degree, for example. Sometimes the condition can be a deal breaker on whether or not you will survive your course. Same thing applies if you wanted to go to Australia for work. You need to be able to understand your supervisor's instructions without having to ask him to repeat many times. And at the same time, I think, more importantly, you need to be able to communicate what's in your mind. okay? So that you can contribute in the workplace. Um, and for these two and other reasons, uh, you know, these are English proficiency is simply a regulatory requirement, for you to apply for visa. Right. On the more practical side, if you look at this funnel here, normally these skills that you see on top: critical thinking, collaboration, creativity. We've heard these buzzwords before as 21st century skills, and we know that they are essential skills for you to be able to survive in this day and age. But what most people overlook is the fact that you may have all of these skills, but if you don't have the proper English language proficiency, you will struggle. Why English? It's because again, in the modern world, English is the de facto language of global language. So think of it as a muscle. You may have the necessary skill, but if your muscles are not strong enough to be able to execute whatever tasks you need, then you will fail. In particular, as far as English is concerned, the productive language skills, we're talking of speaking and writing, are key for you to be able to function properly on the job or in school. What are the tests available used for these purposes, and are they all the same? We will talk about the three most popular ones. You've probably heard of these: IELTS, TOEFL, and PT Academic. Just very generally speaking, IELTS is mostly a paper-based exam. They've released a computer-delivered option recently, but the scoring is still done manually. So you have human graders that are assessing your answers. IELTS would release your test results in about 13 days or more, and you're scored on a 9-point band. So you have from, let's say, 3.0, 3.5, 4.0, and so on. There's nothing in between. For TOEFL, it's computer-based, but it combines automated and human scoring. So there's still some human factor there. Results are out in 10 days, and you are scored in a scale of 0 to 120, where you have 30 points per skill. So you can score anywhere from 0 to 30 in speaking, 0 to 30 in writing, and so on. For PT Academic, this is the only fully computerized test in the market, okay? And it's 100% scored by a computer. It's artificial intelligence. In other words, there is absolutely no human involvement in the course of your test. Okay? The results are out typically in 5 days, but as many of our students have shared with us, it's not uncommon for you to receive your score within 2 days, sometimes even on the same day. Scoring is done using a granular scale that scores you from 10 to 90, 10 being the lowest, 90 being the highest, and you have individual scores. So you have 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and so on. So what exactly do we mean when we say proficient? Most people think that if you can talk like an American or you can mimic a British accent, then you're proficient. That's not really the case. Okay? There's a lot more involved with English proficiency. Essentially, it refers to your ability to communicate, okay? Input and output. Okay? Generally speaking, okay, you have, for the purposes for which PT Academic is usually taken, you have, if you're applying, let's say, for an undergraduate program, the requirement is usually for you to score between 51 to 61 minimum. That's overall. Okay? And then every institution will have its own specific requirement for each skill. Sometimes you will see minimum score of 60 with no band below 55, something like that. If you're taking a postgraduate program, you would be looking at a minimum score of anywhere from 57 to 67. And if you're taking, let's say, an MBA, you're looking at 59 to 69. What do these scores mean? Again, generally speaking, okay, if you are anywhere from, anywhere below 47, you are considered a basic user, which means you have a basic knowledge, basic command of the language. Your vocabulary may be a little bit limited. Your sentences may be on the simpler side. Okay? Between 47 and 73, you are considered an independent user, which means you can pretty much use the language freely. You would rarely be looking up meanings of words in the dictionary and so on. And then above 75, you are considered very proficient, which means in some cases you're even better than a native English speaker. Now, we've encountered this question a lot. How does a computer grade my English skill, particularly speaking? So I'm going to show you a short video. It's about 2 minutes long that roughly gives you an idea. It's, if we were to try and discuss exactly how AI rates you, we're probably going to need a 4-year degree to do that. But this video would give you a somewhat clear idea.
At PTE Academic, we use AI for one very simple reason, to make the most unbiased English test we can. But how can a computer assess language as well as a human? Well, AI scoring means that it's not simply a single human assessing your English, but a very clever algorithm that mimics how human markers would score based on many, many responses. It all starts with our team of expert test developers. They create tests that reflect real-life scenarios, not just multiple choice questions, but essay writing, listening tasks, and storytelling exercises. We then ask hundreds, sometimes thousands of people from all around the world to answer the questions. Each response is evaluated by experts who rate them on things such as use of language, content, or pronunciation. These expert ratings become the sample data for our computers to understand what kinds of responses deserve what kind of marks. This enables the machine, using AI, to imitate the expert ratings and assign human-like ratings to responses. Put simply, that means that when you take our test, what you say or write is instantaneously compared with hundreds of previous responses and how they were scored. And because our test is built around state-of-the-art technology, it can be simply delivered and taken anywhere in the world, giving consistent scores every time. So when you sit down to take the PTE academic test, you're taking advantage of an algorithm that doesn't simply evaluate your skin colour, your gender, or your shoes, but that cleverly evaluates your English on its own merits. It's simple, really. Actually, maybe it's the opposite of simple, clever.
All right. Before I go on, if in case you're hearing roosters crowing in the background, those are my neighbor's chickens who are here also to attend the webinar with us. So please bear with me on that. All right, so as you saw in that video, basically the scoring engine of PTE compares your response with those of thousands of other test takers around the world and how human raters would score them. So you're basically it's like being graded by several thousand different human raters all at the same time. And then you are, the most common ways in which your answer will be scored is the way you will be scored by the system. Compare that with, being graded by human examiners. Okay? You have an example here. One student gives an answer to a particular question, and the human examiner says, yeah, that's an average answer. Okay? Another student gives the exact same answer to the exact same question, but another rater might say, oh, that's a fantastic answer. So you can see how answering the same question in the same way might have different results if you are dealing with human examiners. Okay? Not to put down the human examiners, they are all very well trained, they know what they're doing, but the bottom line is they are human. So, you know, uh, they have their own, you know, we're all prone to errors, we're all prone to our unconscious biases and such. Compare that to being scored by a system like that in PTE. You have, you know, your answer being subjected to the data-driven models and given a rating, let's say of 5. Another student gives the same answer, gets the exact same result. So in terms of your output skills, how does AI score you? What are we looking for? So you're looking at these general factors. Word choice, okay. This also reflects a little bit, you know, how broad your vocabulary is. Okay? Obviously, your grammar and mechanics in constructing your sentences. How do you progress your ideas in an essay? How do you organize your thoughts? Okay? How do you develop them? Your style, your tone of voice, etc. Okay? In the speaking sections, your sentence mastery, okay, the content of your answers, obviously, again, your vocabulary, the accuracy of your choice of words, your pronunciation, your intonation. Are you giving it the proper rise and fall of intonation? Okay? How fluently can you speak? How easily do your thoughts translate to spoken words? Okay? Expressiveness, pragmatics basically means, you know, are you answering the question in, you know, in the shortest way possible, or do you tend to go around in circles before getting to the point? Right. Now, how do you prepare for an English proficiency test like PTE Academic? We will go through just a few sample questions in the interest of time. Now, one of the most important things in preparing for an English test is familiarity. You need to know what kind of questions are you going to be encountering in this test. So here, you can see there are 3 sections in the PT academic test. A total of 20 item types. You will encounter every single item type multiple times during the course of the test. The introduction here, your personal introduction, more than anything, this is a way for you to test the equipment. You know, set the volume properly, test if your mic is working. But also, this is a good opportunity for you to strengthen your statement of purpose. So by personal introduction, we're not asking about what are your likes and dislikes, you know, what are your hobbies. So try to rehearse this in a way that you are giving information that actually helps in showing that you are the best candidate for what you're applying for. Because even though this is not part of the scoring, the personal introduction is accessible to the institutions that you're applying for, so they can view or they can listen to your answer. In the next few slides, we're going to go through 4 sample questions. You have them encircled here. So the first one is a speaking question called Read Aloud. Okay? You can see these are the actual instructions. So look at the text below. In 40 seconds, you must read this text aloud as naturally and clearly as possible. You have 40 seconds to read aloud. So you have 40 seconds to read the text and then 40 seconds to read it aloud, right? Now, this is where we would like to invite your participation. I think Monette will be calling for volunteers. Okay? The first one to volunteer will get a special prize from BADA Philippines.
Right? Yes, so may I invite one tribute who'd like to volunteer and just read this passage on your screen? Anybody would like to read it?
Anyone who want to give it a shot?
Don't worry, we won't give you a score or judge you for your performance. We just would like you to have a chance to try and do it in this session.
I can give it a try.
All
Lance?
Okay,
right.
I see the Lance. Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you, Lance.
All
Let's
right.
hear it.
Once most animals reach adulthood, they stop growing. In contrast, even plants that are thousands of years old continue to grow new needles, add new wood, and produce cones and new flowers, almost as if parts of their bodies remained forever young. The secrets of plant growth are regions of tissue that can produce cells that later develop into specialized tissues.
Thank you very much, Lance. That was excellent. That was a very good read aloud answer. Okay.
Thank you.
Yes, and yeah, congratulations. You get a prize from BADA Philippines. So why do we say that Lance did answered that question properly? So these are the skills that are being tested in a question like this. Content. Simply put, are you, the question is read aloud. So did you actually read it aloud? Did you read every single word in the text correctly, or did you skip any? Did you replace any? Right? So in the case of Lance, he read every single word in the text properly. Fluency, okay? You can see here the points that are assigned. If you delivered that native-like, meaning similar to a native speaker, you get 5 points. Not exactly native-like, but advanced, you get 4 points, and so on. Okay? What we mean by that is, did you demonstrate your how comfortable you are with the language, much like a native speaker? It's important to note that speaking like a native speaker, again, does not mean you speak with the right accent. Okay? What's more important is the way you produce the words and the way you pronounce them. Okay? So don't worry about accent, worry about pronunciation, which we have here. Again, native-like, advanced, and so on. Okay? Right. Some test tips for a read aloud question. Okay? So you're given 40 seconds to read the text, familiarize yourself with the text before the recording begins. So during this time, since it's not recording yet, you can practice, so to speak. So read the text quietly to yourself. If you encounter any words that are not familiar to you, there's no time to look it up. So you just have to do the best you can and pronounce it the best way that you think. This is better than thinking up how you will pronounce this word while the recording is already ongoing. A tip: this is one thing that Lance used. Okay? So he used the punctuation as a guide, okay, to tell him where he needs to pause during the speech. As you can see here, okay, the commas and periods are essentially the points where you pause. For more advanced users, you might find other points within the text where you can pause. But just to be on the safe side, where there's where there's a punctuation is usually where you pause. Right. Writing, okay. The best example is an essay question. Again, this is the instruction that you will encounter during the test. You will have 20 minutes to plan, write, and revise an essay about the topic below. Your response will be judged on how well you develop a position, organize your ideas, present supporting ideas, and control the elements of standard written English. You should write 200 to 300 words. Okay. How do you grade an essay question? Obviously, the most important is the content. Did you actually write about the topic that was assigned to you? the formal requirements. Okay, did you stay within the proper word count? It said 200 to 300 words. Did you actually stay within that? Okay. Ideally, if it says 200 to 300 words, you would be safe to stay within, let's say, 250 to 280 words. Okay. Anything too short, as you see here, if you are between 120 and 199, or on the over the word count, let's say 301 to 380, you get just 1 point. So the best is to stay within roughly 250 to 280. How do you develop your ideas? Okay? How do you lay them down? How do you defend them? Do you use examples, etc.? So this is basically your composition skills. On the technical side, obviously your grammar, subject-verb agreement, plurals, singular, point of view, etc. General linguistic range. Okay? Are you using precisely the best words to drive your point? Okay? Your range of vocabulary, how many synonyms are you familiar with, and do you use them in the proper context? And obviously you have spelling, which if I may point out, this is where it's very important for you to stay consistent, whether, let's say, if you're using US English, then stay with US English, use spellings in US English. Because if you switch at any point during your essay, then the succeeding words will be considered as misspelled. Some tips in essay writing. Okay. The normal tendency for most people when you know you're under time pressure is to begin typing immediately, which is often the wrong way to do it, because halfway through your essay you realize that you're not going anywhere. Your topics are all over the place, and you're left with having to scratch everything and start over, which means you've lost half of your time. Okay? So plan before you write. Write up an outline. Okay, introduction, what's your first topic, etc., etc. Okay? That will help you down the line. PT Academic is testing your academic English, so you need to avoid informal language. Informal language is slang words like gonna, okay, instead of going to, okay? And conjunctions like won't, can't. Okay? These conjunctions have no place in an academic piece, so you need to avoid them. Okay? Again, be consistent with the language that you're using, whether UK or US English. Manage your time. Okay? So you have 20 minutes. So right during the planning stage, you might want to allocate, let's say, 5 minutes to write your outline, 10 minutes to write your actual essay, and then 5 minutes to review and make any necessary revisions. You have your counter here, so you will know how much time you have left. Check your word count from time to time. It's right here at the bottom, so very easy. Again, once you complete your essay, review it. So you need to allocate time to review and then revise if necessary. Okay? During your review, you might want to check these things, punctuation, grammar, spelling, etc. Okay? And long before you take the test, we suggest that you hone your unaided typing skills. Practice, writing all kinds of written pieces using, simple word processors. Or if you want, you can disable the spelling aids on MS Word. Okay? This will ensure that your typing skills are up to par. Okay? On the reading section, we have an example, fill in the blanks. You have here some text, and all you need to do is basically click on the arrow, and that will reveal some choices, and your job is to select the best answer. Okay? Some tips for a question of this type. Okay? Right. So the skills being tested is how do you identify the proper words and phrases. Okay? How well is your understanding of academic vocabulary? How good are you at inferring the meaning of words based on, let's say, the context of the sentence, okay? And your use of proper grammar. Okay? So when you encounter a question of this type, chances are there will be more than one applicable answer. And sometimes correct grammar will be the one that decides which word is the best answer. So some tips here. Okay? Again, use the context of the sentence. And sometimes try to use co-location. Okay? There are certain words that typically go together most of the time, okay? Such as general public, okay? Which is exactly the example here. Okay. Again, when you look at the choices, you can start with eliminating the ones, the wrong answers, and then narrow it down to 2 or 3 possible answers, and then select from there which is the best. There are some questions in the reading section where it's best to read the question first. Let's say in multiple choice questions, sometimes it's better to look at the options first before reading the text. So you look at the option and then look for the appropriate reference within the text. This is mainly because everything is under time pressure. So sometimes if you spend too much time reading the text, you tend to have little time to understand the options that are being presented. Okay, for listening, we have an example here called highlight the incorrect word. This is again an example where we would like to have someone participate. Actually, no, we would like to have all of you participate. Okay, so we will hear a recording, okay, of the transcript below, and your job will be to spot the incorrect words. Okay, the words that are spoken but not on the text, or the other way around, in the text but replaced with another word in the text. In the recording. Okay? So what we'd like you to do is, if you have pen and paper on hand, list down as many of the words that you hear that are inconsistent with the text, and BADA Philippines will select the one lucky winner out of all of those who will submit. Okay? So I'll give you 3 seconds before I play the recording. Okay? In 3, 2, and
I think the importance of creativity today really reflects a fundamental shift in the nature of the economy. In the old days, wealth was created because in the industrial era, you manufactured something, you got economies of scale, you had long production runs, you were really efficient. You could get a Model T any color just so long it was black, right? So there was standardization, and there was a whole set of assumptions about how to manage, how to create an organization, a typical kind of hierarchical organization to make sure that things ran smoothly. Well, that may be great for a relatively stable era of history, relatively stable, but now things are fundamentally unstable. And so we need less economies of scale and more economies of discovery, which means that the management approach, the organizational approach, has got to shift as well.
All right. So apologies for that glitch. We had a momentary pause there. So let's look at the correct answers, which in this case are the incorrect words. Okay? There are actually 7 in the text, so you might want to check. Okay. Monette, do we
Yeah.
want them to submit their answers before we
Yes.
reveal them?
May
All
I
right.
welcome anybody who wants to type in whatever word they found that was inconsistent with the recording. The first one who would give the answer most probably would win a special prize from BADA Philippines. Please feel free to type in any of the word that you found. So the more that you found, the more words that you found, the better. As Mark said, there are 7. Okay, so I see we have 2 competitive candidates here. Okay.
All right.
Okay, great. I see that the first one was actually Nicole. So let's check Nicole's answer. She wrote 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Rift, everything, centralization, presumption, and recovery. I guess we have a winner. So Nicole,
All
because you're the
right.
first participant who submitted an answer, which is 5 correct words. Congratulations, sir. You're just missing 2, and you almost aced this task. Congratulations,
Congratulations,
Nicole.
Nicole. Right. So let's
I think
reveal.
the importance of
sorry.
creativity today really reflects a fundamental shift in the nature of the economy.
Okay. There you go. You have Rift. You have everything, effective, centralization, presumptions, functionally, and recovery. So Nicole got 5 out of the 7. Very good. So that means you get 5 points for this particular question. What's being tested here? Remember, this is a listening question. Okay. Obviously, your ability to identify, okay, what was wrong in the transcription. Your ability to follow, the thought process in an oral input, and matching written text to spoken text. Okay. Some tips for a listening question. Okay. Use your cursor to follow the text. That's the best way. So as you're hearing it, you follow, okay, follow the text as the audio plays, blah, 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 blah. And then whenever you encounter one word that's inconsistent, you simply click on it. Okay. Read any text prompts. In most cases, the instructions of the question will already give you an idea of what the topic is. So if you pay attention to that, you sort of calibrate your mind that you will be talking about this particular subject, okay? Which makes you more alert, I guess, in spotting errors. In some other question types, some other question types for listening, you may need to take down notes. Okay? Obviously, because you are following a recording, you don't always have time to write in full, in full words. So try to develop your own shorthand methods, okay, for taking down notes, which you can refer to later on if you need. All right. How do you prepare for a test like PTE academic? Okay, we're looking at 3 steps here. I mentioned earlier about familiarity. So it's best for you to know the test as much as you can before taking it. Okay? Online, on the Pearson website, we have several practice resources. If I may just switch to, okay. So as you see here, okay, you have preparation resources available, scored practice tests. There are course books that are for sale. Okay. There are also offline practice tests. These are basically sample questions which you can download for free and use them to practice and get familiar with the test. Right? Another resource that you may take advantage of is a mobile app, okay, called the official PTE academic official app. Okay. This is completely free for both Android and iOS devices. You can download it and gives you, again, sample questions, okay, with the same kind of time limits involved, so you can practice anywhere. Okay. Okay. Next, we have scored practice tests. Okay. These are basically dry runs of the actual test. Okay. It's identical. Obviously, you will not encounter the exact same questions, but everything else is the same, the length of time, the question types. Okay. So this is something you can use to rehearse at home. The system will give you a score also. So that tells you how ready you are to take the actual test. Okay. These are the practice test kits that are available online if you prefer to use them. Okay. Right. Let me switch back to the presentation. Now, of course, you can do as much self-practice as you can, but nothing is better than having someone who can actually coach you, point out your areas of improvement. Okay? So we strongly suggest that you get you enroll in a coached practice course, such as the ones that are being offered by CCN Philippines. Next, yeah, I talked about the online scored practice test. This is a good way for you to judge whether you are ready to take the test or not. Now, for those of you who, let's say you are aiming for, let's say, a 65 on PTE, and after taking the online scored practice test, you realize you are 58, which means you have quite a long way to go. We also have what we call Pearson Online English, which is this is a self-paced online English course that's designed to develop your skills. Okay? Not just prepare you for a test, but to actually improve your skill from, let's say, a 58 to, if you're looking for a 65. Okay? Let me see if we can. There we go. Just to give you a sneak peek, I hope the connection, okay. So for example, this is a course that you will see on Pearson Online English. Okay? Listening, writing, it's up to you which one you want to take first. You start the lesson and then it actually gives you ratings at different points within the course. So this is self-paced, but there are options for you to take group classes with a real life instructor. Okay. Am I on? Sorry, going back to the presentation slide. Okay, that's pretty much my last slide. For more information about PTE, you can go to this website, pearsonpte.com. Everything you need to know about the test is there. Okay? And for inquiries about how you can take a coached test preparation course, contact CCN Philippines. On that note, I will pass you over back to Monette.
Great. Thank you, Mark. That's fantastic. I hope everyone got good insight regarding PT academic, English proficiency as a whole. So may I now call on another presenter who will be talking about how else can you prepare for an exam amid the pandemic. So we know that social distancing is quite important at this time. So let me just share my screen so you can see her presentation. Marian, I think this is your time to present. Are you able to also share the presentation from your end? I'm just having a tech glitch at this time. Don't know what's happening to my computer. Apologies.
Okay, wait. I'll just share it from my end, I guess. But
Yep.
wait a second. Okay. All right. Can you see it?
Not yet. Yeah, there you go.
All right, so
All
hello
yours.
everybody. Hello everybody. Again, my name is Marian from Career Consultants Network or CCN. CCN is a company which provides different educational services for students locally and abroad. We are partners with Pearson in promoting some of their services. So, one of the services that we offer is the PTE Academic Preparation Course. So, like what was mentioned earlier by Mark, it's not enough that you are fluent in the language to be able to get the score that you aim for when you are taking a high stakes English exam. You know, they say if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. So, it applies here. So, that's why it's very important for you to take a preparation course. And this is something that we offer. We actually offer this program. I can't go to the next slide. Okay, sorry. All right, there. We do offer this via face-to-face delivery and via online, but at the moment we do not really want to go outside and do any type of mass gathering, even if it's just a small group. So we would like to focus on our online delivery. We have a self-paced online course, and we do this via Skype, or usually we do it via Skype, but we can also do it via Zoom. If you enroll in this course, you will get an unlimited 60-day access to our modules and the practice test items that's also included. And then you also get to have 4 Skype sessions with our instructors. So we say 4 because there will be 4 skills that will be tested. So 4 major English skills: reading, listening, writing, and speaking. That's why there will be 4 sessions. So we separate that. And since you will be coached or you will have an instructor for those skills, you will have coaching opportunities for speaking and writing, because these 2 skills are something that's really hard to assess on your own. And then you will also get top tips and strategies on how to get high scores, similar or almost the same like what we did in the practice that Mark showed us. So there are a lot of test items, and for each test item, there is a specific strategy that must be used. So these are part of our program. And then there is also English enhancement lessons and exercises in our online module, or we call it Moodle, which you can study on your own. And then we will also give you 2 comprehensive performance reports evaluated by our instructors. So the total Skype class duration will be a total of 10 hours, which, like I said previously, it's divided into 4 sessions. So it's not a straight 10-hour session, don't worry. We know it's too overwhelming to do that. The cost is 6,500 pesos. So we just want to share with you why or what makes our program stand out from the rest. So we have our own e-learning portal, or what we call the Moodle. So those included in the package that I mentioned earlier, all of those are in the Moodle, except of course for the instructor. This portal, you can access it anytime, anywhere, as long as you have an access to it. And your access will start once you enroll. And aside from those, the other assistance that we can provide you once you enroll in our program or in our courses is our assistance with your PTE booking for your exam, and also booking your PTE scored practice test. Plus, we will also give you guidelines on what's going to happen on the actual day of your exam. So let me just reiterate that, or let me just clarify that we are not a test center. CCN is not a test center. We provide a test preparation course for those who would like to take the PTE. There's only one PTE test center. It's in Makati along Hilpuyat Avenue or Buendia. So we can assist you when you book your exam. So that's it. Or also, I'm sorry, if you are interested with the Pearson Online English that Mark showed us earlier, you can also get in touch with that for inquiries. Thank you, Mo.
Great. Thank you, Marian, for sharing about the programs of PT Review by CCN. Mike, could you also share that screen again so we could just flash the Q&A session? So we are nearing towards the end of the session, and I see that there are some couple of questions that I'd like to pass on to our speaker. First, I think Mike already answered. There's a question that's asking where can they take the PTE test? The test center, I'm happy to answer that. So the test center is in Makati, and it's currently already open starting this month. So test takers are able to already start booking or scheduling for their exam. Don't worry, because rest assured everything will be safe. But number one requirement is you'll be wearing, or you'll be required to have, a face mask. So another question, may I address it to Mark? I'll just read it first. Are the passing scores different for students and professionals?
Okay, in a test like PTE, there is actually no pass or fail. Okay? It depends on what the institution that you're applying for is requiring. So, you can score a 30, and if the institution accepts that, then you pass. Now, between students and professionals, I guess, depending on what kind of job we are talking about, sometimes the universities would require a higher score. Sometimes the work would require more. So it really depends on what is required by the institution that you're applying for. But having said that, there's no harm in you aiming for a 90, which is the highest possible score in PTE. And I'm sure CCN will be able to confirm with you that 90 is actually not an uncommon score for Filipinos, right, Mo?
Yes, in fact, we've had students who aced all 4 skills. They all got 90. So perfect.
So, don't worry about pass or fail, just go for 90. That's it.
Yes, so another question, Mark, is what is the weight of the English proficiency in school admission tests? Because schools would also look at other skills like math, science, and other subjects.
Okay, I think this is more a question that BADA would be able to answer. What I can tell you is that Australian universities require an English proficiency certificate. How much weight that has over the other requirements, I think BADA would be able to answer that more.
Okay, may I ask BADA Executive Director Myra to answer this, please? Give us some light into this concern. Myra?
Yeah, hi.
There you are.
Hi, Manette. Yes, yeah. So to answer that, it depends on the course and the school that the student is going to. If it's a vocational program, a bachelor, or a master's. And some occupations like nursing and teaching would require a higher score, like 65 in all bands, just to get in or to do the course. So the lowest for vocational programs is an equivalent of 50. And for higher education, like bachelor and master's, it's 60. And for special occupations requiring a higher score, it's around 65.
Great, thank you, Myra. And may I just add to that? I think one more reason why you're required to submit a proficiency proof of English is because you're joining an English-speaking country normally. So you'd be joined by others who are also speaking English. And this is why it's important that you're able to communicate to your teacher, to your classmates, and to others who are living with you in that environment. Yeah.
Yes, that's correct.
So, thank you, Myra. And I think we have one more time for one more question, and I'll address this to Mark. Somebody is clarifying, Mark. You've shown us about artificial intelligence, how they measure the response of students, especially in speaking. Will it be sensitive to accent, or is it a requirement for test takers to have a specific accent?
Okay, the quick answer is no, it's not sensitive to accent. But it is sensitive to proper pronunciation. Now, having said that, again, remember how the system compares your answer with those of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of other test takers around the world. So let's take the word develop, for example. If you look at the dictionary, it says that the accent should be on the second syllable, so develop, right? But 1 billion Indian nationals would pronounce it develop. Now, I always say, how can you tell me that 1 billion people, 1/6 of the world population, is wrong? So the system has already accommodated that, okay, in certain parts of the world, this word is pronounced this way. So it's not necessarily wrong and it's accepted. Okay? So the system has these accommodations for, acceptable regional variations in the way you pronounce the word. But accent is definitely not a factor. In fact, when you take the test, the questions themselves will be coming from people with different accents. You might hear an Australian, Chinese national, an Indian national. So it's meant to be in a global context.
Great. Thank you for clarifying that, Mark. And I think we've just answered the final question for today. So we're quite over time today, but that's fine. Allow me to conclude this session formally by thanking everyone who participated and those who also participated during the activities. We hope you found it productive. A big thank you to our guest speaker, Mark Flores of Pearson Asia, and Marian Campos of PT Academic Review by CCN for making this event meaningful and possible. We look forward to seeing you in the next final masterclass. Mike, could you just click it to the next slide, please? The topic is the importance of supply chain management in surviving a pandemic. And this is on June 13th, Saturday at 1:00 p.m. Philippine time. Please don't miss this event and register already. I posted on your screen our contact details. I just want to go back to the question, the test center of PTE. We just mentioned the Philippines, and I just realized we also have participants from another country like Saudi Arabia. So in fact, there's also a test center in other countries. So you just want to check pearsonpte.com to find out these test centers that are already offering the session at this time. So that will be all. Stay safe, stay home, everyone, and enjoy the rest of the day. Goodbye.
Thank you. Goodbye, everyone. Thank you for your
Bye.
time. Bye.